The cat sat on the mat. A big red bull is parked.
She is very amiable and light-headed. She juggles her workload between
The mama penguin is calling out to her baby. Listen, I put the right baby next to mama penguin.
Right. So if you saw the kind of features that were there in the app, right from AI integration to SS reading levels to creating simple games, quizzes, etc., putting the flow of a learning path with respect to books and other things and all that. So all that is something which is possible using no code. Some of the games that you saw in the video are done with custom code, not exactly with the no code that is natively available in Flutterflow. But that's one beauty of the platform, that even if you want to go one step ahead, because Flutter is basically a language that is developed. It's based on Dart, which is developed by Google, right? And virtually you can achieve anything using that language. So it does provide that option that if you want, you can write custom code so that your scalability is not hindered, even if it does not provide native features for achieving few things. A bit on the Flutterflow technical stack. So the logic related to the front-end actions and all is something that you code in Flutterflow itself. Of course, you build the user interface with a drag and drop builder in Flutterflow. It interacts with Firebase as the database option. There is another database which it connects with, which is called Superbase, but I've found more documentation and it being simpler to connect with Firebase because it integrates with Firebase in a native manner. So for the purpose of today's interaction, we are going to use both Flutterflow and Firebase and see how it connects together, and we are able to build the quiz overall. Uh, for some of the backend function, you can also integrate Google Cloud functions, which are separate functions related. It could be anything like generating a report, etc. You can write that code and call those functions in Flutterflow, but it's not necessary. That's more an add-on as you move to more advanced levels and you want to get into advanced backend capabilities. You sort of invoke that as such, right? So now what we are going to do today is build an app which is a simple quiz. Now I'm just going to show a snippet of that app. I built it today. It took me around like 50 minutes to 1 hour to build that, and I published that on web as well. Right, and I'll just show a snippet of that app on how it is working, and then we will get started with building that app. So this is what I published on web. Again, the alignment, etc., can be much better, but it's just a very basic, simple version of what can be done, right? So there's a quiz that you see. It asks how many planets are there. So if I do select a correct answer, submit it, it gives me a correct sound and points are recorded. Now again, it moves to the next question. It asks which planet is the biggest in the solar system. Now just for experimentation, I do something wrong and submit it. So it gives me wrong and then moves to the next thing. If you see dynamically, the points did not change. It remained at 1 point only. and then it is moved to the third question where which planet is closest to the sun. So if I select Mercury, it gives me 2 points. Thank you. And so a very simple widget, but it will be useful for the purpose of demonstrating in this session what can be done, right? So coming back over here, so we'll get into action directly, right? So we will create an account or a project, right? And if you want me to look at the code of the project itself during the session, if you get stuck somewhere, then you can add your initials in the name and add this personal ID as a collaborator. Right, otherwise it's not necessary. You can build it on your own looking at what all we are sharing during the session. So let me get started with creating a new project and start building. So I'll just go to the Flutterflow interface where we will start building the app. Right, so this is the quiz app that you already see over here, which I built today itself. Now I'm going to start afresh, right, and just start with a quiz app live session, okay. So while there are templates of different apps that you can use, I'm going to start with a blank one. Now it is completing the setup of it. If you see, the name is over here. This package name becomes quite important when you are publishing the app. Do not leave this as my company as a generic thing. Always have something specific over here, because this is used for identification on Play Store and App Store, right? And I normally like this particular theme, so I'll just select this theme. I'm going to enable web publication, and I'll ask them for a Firebase setup as well. So here is where you need to connect and set up Firebase, right? So the purpose of Firebase is that whenever, so for example, the quiz that I showed you, there were a few questions that you were seeing. So all that is coming from database. So you have that flexibility to change it. Nothing is hard-coded over there, right? So now there are two options of connecting a Firebase project. Either you can create a project, or you can manage it by connecting a particular Firebase project. I generally prefer connecting this project, like going to Firebase and creating a project over there and connecting it with a Firebase project ID. So I'll just briefly show that part as well. Just because there are settings in Firebase that you are able to manage better over there. Shifting to Firebase, where if you see, I'm just moving to the console. Now these are my other projects that are there. I'm going to create a new project. So here it's asking for enabling Google Analytics, so that I'll continue. It is just linking to my, so you may or may not see this option. If you already have analytics account, it will show that. And now it's preparing the project that I want to connect to Flutterflow. So Harsh has a question: can the project name be edited later? I think so. I've not tried it myself, like editing the project name myself, but I think it can be edited later. Okay, so your Firebase account is created. Now there are a couple of steps that needs to be done over here. One is you go to project settings, and in users and permissions, for Flutterflow to read this particular project, it is required that you add this particular email ID, flutterflow@firebase.io, and again I'm going to provide all of these things in the slides, so it will be easier for you, and add them as an editor. Then they will be able to read this data, whatever we are creating over here. Right, so I've added Flutterflow at firebase.io. The other thing that I'm going to do is, within build there are two options that we are going to use for today. One is called authentication, and the second one is called Firestore database. Authentication is used for users to for managing login, etc. How do you when you create login related pages and all, to ascertain whether what content to show to the users and all. And database is where all your collections lie. So right now I'm going to go to authentication, and I'm going to get just enable authentication, email based authentication. Okay, you see now my authentication of an email password based is enabled. There are other authentication methods as well. There is phone based, Google login, Apple login, etc. But their implementation and integration is little bit more time consuming. So the first simple one is just email and password based, which I've checked right now. Now I'm going to come back to Flutterflow and complete the setup that was required over here. Right. So you see in this, what it is asking for is a Firebase project ID, right? Now again, in the settings part, you will see the project ID. So you see QuizApp Live -1E812. This is the project ID. So this I am going to copy, and I will paste over here and hit connect. Okay, I think I made a mistake. So in users and permissions, so it is actually firebase@flutterflow.io, not flutterflow@firebase.io. So now I've come back over here. This is the project ID that I've put over here. Now if the email ID that we added over here is incorrect, this connect will not work. So because it is correct, so it completed the connection of Firebase with this. I'm just going to enable authentication. I want to create a user collection. User collection is basically the users that will log into your app, register as users and all. As soon as you create user collection, it enable authentication, it asks for initial pages, which are important to define. So while we have enabled login, we are not going to implement login today. We are just going to build the quiz app for everybody to use. So I'm going to the login page itself, I want to use as the quiz page. So I'm just naming this as quiz page. This you can change later as well. You can connect different page as the initial page that comes in. So this is the first page, very first page, that whenever the app opens or the web application opens, this is the first page that will come. Logged in page is the page where the user will go if whatever you have implemented, be it phone login, email login, etc., whatever has been implemented, if that is that authentication is done, then that particular page will come in. Now I'll hit start building, right? So what did we do? We created account on Flutterflow, created a project on Firebase, connected both of them. Now you see there is an error that is coming over here in this interface, this project issue. So it is saying that there is something in Firebase setup which is not yet complete, right? So once I click on it, it will take me to the Firebase settings, which you can again access by this settings piece over here on the bottom. And once you click, you can click on Firebase, and you can hit the thing that it is asking us to do is generate configuration files. So this is an important step in connecting Firebase, where you need to generate config files. It is just clicking these buttons. So remember, when you do actual coding, instead of these buttons, you have to write that code in Firebase by generating that configuration files, etc., and all that. But in case of Flutterflow, it has made all of this just easy, that you just click these buttons and the files will be generated. Now, one important thing is that whenever you generate config files, it links itself to this package name. So if you change the package name later on, there are chances that it will not function. Then you will have to regenerate config files for it to work properly. So right now with this package name, I'm just generating this config files. It will take maybe in 1 minute or so. And now this Firebase setup is completed. You will see this error also disappeared from here, right on Firebase. Just on these functionalities over here, when you are building, these are the top 4 most used widgets, where this will give you a list of pages and components. This option over here is for within the page, what is the these individual items are called widgets, and within this page, what are the different widgets that are option. This is available within this widget tree. There are some storyboarding options that from one page to other, where you are navigating, etc., you are able to see that. Not really useful for this session. For this session, we will use these two more. When you do click on build, it shows all the common elements, but you can also look at that using build widget tree, and we will show how to build this over here, right? So just in terms of the steps over here, so what did we do? We did the setup of Firebase, enabled Google Analytics. In case it asks, we can start, we have to choose the option of starting in test mode. We added Firebase at flutterflow.io as an editor. We enabled authentication in Firebase, and we connected Firebase in Flutterflow, keep authentication checked, and create 2 pages, quiz page and home page, for initial and login pages, right? And then it gave an error. Then we created the generate, we clicked the generate Firebase config thing and completed this setup, right? So now, when we are starting to build UI for a particular project, there are few things that on how Flutter works that needs to be considered, right? So it is basically built around the concept of sort of 2-3 main widgets, which are called column, rows, and containers. Okay, so column is when you want to stack any number of elements vertically. So like the name is itself is quite explicit, that column will have, and in terms of technical jargon, it is called children. So the children widgets that you need to add within a column, you can stack one after the other. If let's say you want to add something horizontally, so for example, in the screen that you see, you can see your score, and then there is a progress bar, right? So there are two, there is a text element and there is a progress bar element which is stacked horizontally. Then that needs to be added in a row. Whereas if I have to put certain, like the first text of answer the questions given below, and then the row is added within a column. So a combination of these are used to build the app. The purpose of a container is to give styling and defining what should be the size of a particular widget, etc. So these are the 3 main widgets that are used for building anything. Any page that you will build, you will use these 3 for sure, right? Now for the purpose of this particular quiz, we are also going to use 2-3 other widgets which are specific, and like these are only few of the widgets that are available. There are like some maybe 60-70 different types of widgets or builders that are available for you to build these things. Page view is used when we want to create multiple pages. So here, like you saw initially, the quizzes were coming one after the other. So those were 3 different pages of a page view. List view is again used to create a list of items, be it horizontally or vertically. So the buttons that you see where the answers are shown, that is a part of list view. Button is of course wherever you want to add a call to action, or you want to visibly show a button and you want to link an action over there, you use that. Text is wherever you want to add text. It is for, in this particular widget we are using a progress bar, and app bar is the top part that you see where it is the take a quiz. And I will quickly show how to build this or place this in the UI tree in like 5-10 minutes, and then we will have some even if you have not connected Firebase, you can still build the front end of it, and then but while we are connecting data, it will be required for you to connect the Firebase part of it. All right, so I'll move to the widget. So I'm just going back to the main project that where I was editing. So this quiz app live. So here are the pages. So quiz page is selected. I'm going to the widget tree on the left hand side. So this is the widget tree. Now you see there are 2 major things. One is the quiz page. This is called the main scaffold, and then by default it has added a column to it, right? And then there is an app bar, which is this top part. So I'm just going to edit this text over here. So when I selected this text, there are options that you see on the right hand side which are coming. So this right hand side is all about what should be the text of it, what should be the placement, padding, alignment, etc. And you will see live when I'm building it, wherever we want to add some padding and all, we will be adding those aspects, right? Just in terms of the main options over here, this is more for styling and properties of the widget. This over here is when you want to add some action, like if you are clicking on it or tapping on that particular section and you want to add some action, you can build an action over here. This third one is for building a query, right? And this fourth is for adding animations to it, and fifth is for annotations. Let's say you want to document some part of it, right? So now coming to this column that which is provided. Instead of column, by default I generally start with a container which gives sort of a fixed width to things, and columns and rows, their width and height is decided based on the widgets that you add below them. But for a container you can define the widget of it. So I'm rather going to use a container and then add a column to it. So I deleted the column and I'm adding a container over here. So you see this container right now, its size is just 100 pixel by 100 pixel. That's why it is small over here. Now I'm going to change this to percentage and make this width as 100, right? And the height of it, I don't want to define it. I want to keep it flexible so that it takes up based on the height of its children, like whatever we are going to add later on within this container based on that. So I'm going to remove this height. Now in the container, the first thing that we had added was a text, right, where we can have any text answer the questions below. So I'm just typing these text over here. Now if I try to add something over here itself, so let's say below this I want to add another text widget, right? So it is giving me that you have to replace, because container can have only one child. You cannot add multiple widgets within container, right? So if I want to add widgets one below the other, first I will have to put a column over here. Now there are two ways by which I can add a column. One is I can delete this text, add a column and then add it over here, or I can right click on this text and there is an option called wrap widget. You see this wrap widget over here? In this wrap widget, I can say that wrap it in column, which means that it will add a parent as a column over here. Now within this container, I have a column, and within this column, I have this text. Now this column will accept multiple widgets, right? It will not just accept text or any one part of it. It will accept multiple widgets, and it will stack them one below the other, linear. So I want to use the linear thing, so I'll change this to linear, right? uh, Now again, the width of it is something that is defined over here. The thickness, I want it a little bit higher. If I want to add an end radius, I can add an end radius which is giving it a curved kind of a shape instead of it being completely square bracketed, right? Again, the width over here is something that I can manage as well. This width I can make it as 100, so that it will come from end to end. Now, for users to see that this is a progress bar, I had also added a text, right? And I'm just referring to the quiz that we had just built. So, and that text was in the same line. Now, what do we use when we have to add things in the same part horizontally? Which widget should I use? Anybody? Yeah, what was it called? Row, right? Yeah, so we have to use a row. So again, there are two options. Either I can add a row over here and then drag this progress bar first within the row. I will add a text, okay, and I can drag this progress bar as a child of this row. So you see this text and this progress bar now are coming horizontally in one line, right? Now, if I want to add some spacing between the two, right? So item spacing within this row, it gives me an option to add some spacing. So I'm just adding 5 pixel over here. Overall column, I just want to add some padding so that it is not sticking to the walls of the app. There is some leeway over there. So in padding over here 10, and over here as well as 10. So this is something that I have added for it to look better. Now within the column itself, if you see the answer questions below and this row, they are sticking to each other, right? Ideally, in a proper design, you would not want these elements to just stick to each other one after the other. So within the column itself as well, it gives those options of providing this item spacing, that what space do I want between all the different items that are there. So over here again, I can add 5 or I can add 10 so that there is some space. Now if I want that this answer the questions below also has some spacing on the top, right? Then over here again, it is giving me an option, apply to start and end. So I'll just switch this on. So it is now giving a padding of 10 within this column, and then this answer the questions below, and then this progress bar is there. So these are the basics. Again, the idea is not to know everything within this session, but there are multiple options with respect to alignment, the position, how do you add the spacing, etc., that are available, and which you can just use it instead of coding. You can just select those options and it will show it accordingly, right? Now few things over here. Now the answer the questions below, I want this to be a bit in larger font size. So if you see, it has different font sizes already available over here. So I'm just going to select a title large option. Even for this progress bar, first I'll change the text, calling it your score, right? And let's say I'll just choose label medium or maybe title large. So this is the first part of the quiz, right? After that, we had the question answers of the quiz and all. So for that, what I told, that the different question answers we want to lay it out in multiple pages. That is where this widget called page view is useful. So what is page view? Basically, if you want within a particular screen, you want some section where you can enable scroll, or you want 2-3 different sections to appear one after the other. Page view gives options to control those things. Now if you see within this, by default, now all of this right now is hard coded. Unless and until we connect Firebase data, it will not start showing the data that we want to connect over here, right? So this is a page view of where there is an image widget. We don't need an image, right? So we are going to delete this. Now within this first page, I'm going to build what we want to build, right? So first of all, I'll put a container because that gives or limits the size of things that are required. I'm going to come to over here to the width part of it and mark it as 100 so that it stretches from end to end. Now within container, again, I'm going to add a column. Now in the column, first was where we wanted to have the question number, right? And then we want the question, another text widget, which is the question itself. Now after that, again there were options. There are options of different answers that are there. So that we are going to use list view, where you can list multiple items one after the other, right? So over here, now I'm just hard coding this for now. Question number 1. How many planets there in the solar system, right? Now within this list view, you can add multiple items. So I've added a button over here. I don't want this to be green. I want this to be a bit dull. So I've added this alternate color. I will change their text to black so that it is visible. Right. And over here again, right now I'm hard coding, but I will show how it gets connected to Firebase and you are able to manage data also, right? So this is 6. Now within this list view also, I'll add some item spacing. Within column, again they are sticking to each other, so I'm going to add some spacing between them to give it a better appeal. Within list view, the options are again very close to each other, so I'm going to increase the spacing between them, right? Now after all of this, we want a button to for submitting the answer, right? So this is a button where we are putting submit over here. So broadly, this is the basic UI of the app that we built very quickly, right? Now, this the next step to it is to connect the data that we have or we will add while creating Firebase. Okay, so now I understand everybody would be at different stages, but I'll move to the data connection part of it, right? And and showcase how now right now everything is hard coded over here. These questions that are there or the answers that we have written, everything is hard coded. We don't have 3 questions and all. So all that, how do we connect with Firebase data and manage it together, is that something I'll focus on in the next 10-15 minutes. All right. So first thing what we are going to do is create a collection, a quiz collection where we'll have, so what are the fields that we need? We basically need a question, we need what is the correct answer, and we need the answer options and question number, which is more for putting it in a serial manner as well. And these are the other actions that are required of deploying security rules, etc., which I'll take you through. So just coming back to the interface, right? So now I have to connect data. So I'll go to this section where you see over here on left hand side, very small, it might not be visible, but it's written connect, right? And then there is this option called Firestore. Now in this Firestore already you will see there is one collection which is created by default by Flutterflow, which is users collection. So that is because in the initial step of connecting Flutterflow, if you are in Firebase, you remember we checked that to create a users collection, and it created a default one with basic fields, and you can edit these fields, but it basically created a default one. Right now we are going to create a quiz collection. So now in this quiz collection, so it gives an option of generating with AI, but I'm just going to start from scratch. First thing is I need to have a question. Now these data types that are there, these are basic coding language, but I'm assuming most of you might be knowing. Sabia, I'm not sure if you're aware of these, but I'll briefly tell. Integer is basically an integer. Double is for when you want to use decimals or percentages. String is for any text value. Boolean is for true and false. Color is for the color options. Image, video and audio path when you are connecting some images, video, audio paths, etc. Document reference is an ID of the documents that get created in collection, and then there are further others which we don't need for today. Okay, so this question, it is because it is basically text, the data type will be string. I'll add this over here. Then there's question answer, which again is a text type, so it is a string itself. So I'll just name this as correct answer. Right. Then there is question number. I'm calling it question num. This is an integer. And then we need to provide the list of options, right? So answer options. So this is string, but it is a list. So you see this option over here. This is important that you have to check this thing over here. Then it will allow you to add multiple options. So it's a list of strings. So now my collection structure or the schema is created where I can add data in this form. All right. Yeah. Right. Yes. Hmm. Right. Yes. Because numbers can be represented as strings, but if let's say in some questions you have numbers and some questions you have string, then it needs to have one data type for both of them, right? So string is the right way to do it there. Okay. So now you see there is an option called manage content over there. Before clicking on this, I'm going to go to Firebase and set up my database. So this was the Firebase tab that I created, Quiz App Live. This is the one. So like I said, there are two important things. One is authentication. We already added email authentication in that. The other is within build, you will find this option of Firebase Firestore database. So I'm going to click on this. So I'll click on create database. Now it is asking me for location. Generally I choose a location, or you choose a location which is closer to your users. So I'm choosing a location of Asia South 1 Mumbai. Now here it is giving me two options of start in production mode or start in test mode. These security rules, they need some understanding. So you can start in test mode in the beginning, right, which allows you to edit and or view data without any rules, and you create this. So you see now it is giving me this option of starting a collection, right? So now this can be done in multiple ways. One is we can start a collection right here, and the name that we gave of quiz collection, we can add data over here as well. We can try doing that from this manage content option as well. Initially, due to some permissions, it may give some error. So, but once the database is created in Firebase, it should work properly. So I'll try doing it with this manage content thing. So once I clicked on manage content, it is opening another page, right? So in this Firestore data manager, there's users, and then there is quiz collection. Users we don't want to edit, we want to add things over here in quiz collection. So I have clicked on adding a document, and I'm adding these options. Question number is 1. So it could be that we missed one option in setting, because of which it is taking time. So I'm just going to come back to this Flutterflow option over here. So if you see in settings, so this was the connect Firestore things where we created the collection, right? In settings, there is this Firestore settings. We have users collection, etc. Where over here there are Firestore rules which are not deployed as of now, right? So so for now, again, these rules later on you can decide based on what you want people to have access or not have access to, etc. But right now I'm going to deploy like this quiz collection with everyone for create, read and write options. So it is deployed. I'm going to just try refreshing the manage content and see that once. Yeah. So I just refreshed this quiz collection. So the option that we added over here, now we can see this, right? So there's a document ID which is showing, there's a question number, there's correct answer, and then the options over for answer options are in this list. So very quickly, I'll just add 3 questions over here, and I'm just going with the same questions that I had. What is the biggest planet in the solar system? Right, correct answer is Jupiter. Now B and the exact word that is So now we have these three. Okay, I did something. Okay, yeah, that's correct. So we have these three documents over here where we have added the content in here, right? So now I'm going to come back to the Flutterflow interface, right? So this was my interface. Now this is a test, this lightning thing that you see on the right hand side, this is the test option. So let's see what we are seeing right now. Okay. If we run the app, what it opens up a deep sort of a debugger or an emulator where it would build the app. Let's see what we are seeing right now, and we will also see how it will change once we connect the data. So you see, it is showing me the hard-coded whatever information I've put, and then once we correct data and we refresh it, we'll see. Now you can see there is some error that is coming over here. So this is an overflow error where it is saying that there is some by 130 pixels this particular widget is overflowing. So I'll just quickly fix that part as well. So if I go to the progress bar, the width that we have given is 100%, right? But it is starting itself after this your score. So although it is trying to take up 100% of the space, and that might be the width of the screen, which is 390 pixels, it is not getting that much space, right? So I'm going to change this percentage to something that it will probably manage properly. So probably like 60% or so, which should be sufficient for it to show this data. Okay. So now once we run this again, we'll see that later the overflow error that we were seeing should not come there. Now the data, how do we connect it over here? So the data that we added just now, while it is you saw it in the Flutterflow interface. Okay, sorry, this tab was I was not sharing. What I showed here was that this width over here, earlier this was 100, right? Because of the, I've changed this to 60% so that that overflow error does not come, right? Now connecting the data part, while the data you have seeing it in Flutterflow, but actually it is residing in Firebase. So if you go to the Firebase collection where we saw this, so this particular part, so I'm just refreshing the database part over here. So you see this quiz collection is created, and the same data points that we added over there is showing over here. This is where it is actually stored, while Flutterflow is just an interface which is showing that and it is connected. This is where it your data is lying within Firebase. Okay. So now first of all I need to query this data, and for that we are going to use a function called query collection. So initially I told you these options for any widget over here. So I've chosen the parent container, the largest container, which is holding all of this, all the widgets that are there, it is holding, and I'm going to put a query over here. So I went to this query option, I'm putting an add query. So query collection. So I'm querying a quiz collection, right? So it is giving this option of single document. I don't want single document, I want list of documents. And so you can leave this limit empty as well, but for safer side, if let's say you have a collection which has too many documents, you would want to limit it to some certain number. So I'm limiting this to 5 over here. So that's how now this collection is created. Now if I will go to this text and all, I'll get this option of linking it to this collection items. So let's say this text itself, just for example sake, although I do not want to change this answer the questions below, I want to link it to the collection. You can see this sort of this database option, this orange icon that is over here. If I click on it, I am seeing this option of quiz collection documents, right? And then there are multiple options which are showing, and I can connect that data over there. Okay, now coming to the quiz part, right? We have what we have done till now. We have queried the collection and we have a list of documents. Specifically because we have 3 documents, so we must be having 3 documents. But the code does not know till it fetches that it will have 3 documents, or you will not know to say that whether a quiz will have 3 questions or will it have 10 questions, etc. So what we are going to do is we are going to create that dynamically. And that is the beauty of these widgets of page view and list view, that you can create dynamic children, right? So I've selected this page view. You see beside the query option, there is another option which is saying generating children from variable. So what it does is that it will create pages for each of those questions if we link it to the number of documents. So I'm going to give a variable name, questions, right? Or let's say quiz questions, question docs, because we are linking it to the documents. Now this value, it will accept for any list item. So if you see quiz collection documents, this is a list of those documents that we just queried from the container above. So this, I'm going to select it, no further changes. I confirm it over here and I save this. Now this is an important message that it is giving. This widget will now generate its children dynamically from the specified variable, which means my hard coding will go away, right? Whatever is coming from the document will create children of this page view. So the page view may have 3 pages, it may have 20 pages, it may have 100 pages. It will depend of how many documents are there in the Firebase. Simply edit the first child in this page view to set how every child should look. The other important thing is that every child that is a page within this page view will be standard. So I'm just clicking this OK. Now if you see, earlier there were these 3 pages in which there are these images. Now these page 2 and 3 are redundant. You can leave it there or you can delete it, it doesn't matter, because like it mentioned that only whatever is there in the first page will show. So this is the page view page. Now in this, first I want to put the question number, right? So again I'm clicking over here. So you see a new thing has come up. Below quiz collection documents, because we created children, it is showing quiz question docs, the variable name that I gave, item. So it is each of those documents is being specified as an item over there. And if I click on this, it is showing me the schema of my document, which is question, correct answer, question num, and answer options. So I just have to link this as a question over here. So okay, so this is question number, so I'll just change this to question num. Now over here in this part, again going to this item, questions, right? So we have this question num, we have this question, and then there is a list view with these different options that again we are going to make it dynamic, right? So in the same manner that we made this page view dynamic, we are going to make this list view dynamic. So like I said, page view and list view will accept any variable which is a list, right? So I'm going to this generate dynamic children option. I am going to do this answer options, right? And in answer options, within this item, you see now these 3 are red. I cannot select a question, correct answer, or question num, because these are not a list, right? And when we are using the generating children from variable, it will only accept a list. So I'm going to select this answer options as a list. I confirm this and save. Again, it is giving me the same message that it is going to create this children and only the first child will you need to edit, right? So you see it changed everything to 6666, right? And even if I delete the second, third, fourth button, it won't matter because it is just taking the styling from the first button and it is linking everything dynamically. Now in this button, this is still hard coded, right? So I'll put over here. So you see a new thing has come up again. There's an answer options item. So within this answer options item, I don't want to change anything else. Directly I want to fetch the answer. So I'll confirm this. So it will become as an answer options item, right? Now actions I will explain a bit more in detail. Okay, let me take up actions later. First, let me show you how this looks in the test mode. So you see, now it is starting with question number 2 and we are going to see how to resolve that. But whatever we had in the documents, it is showing that. Now this is a page view, it works by swipe. I'm using the controls below over here to move to the next page. So we have question number 3, which planet is near, okay, that's a typo, but anyway. And the 4 options are shown over here. So now the content that you're seeing over here is dynamic. Now one issue that is coming is that question number 1 is coming in the end, right? And so that we need to change. So I'm going to just go back to this Flutterflow, the initial query that I did, right? So initial query I had on this parent container over here. So I'm going to click on this edit and there is an option of order by. So here within order by, I am going to say question num and say it as increasing, right? So then it is going to take based on my question number. So it will show me question number 1 first and others later. So let's go over here and refresh this and see. So you see, because it is ordered now, it is the first question is coming over here and question number 2 and question number 3. Now within content, what are the issues? One issue is that I don't want to just show 1, I want to show question number 1, right? Now, and again, I'm taking these examples just to show you the power of the platform, that if you want, you can do anything. So over here, we had directly linked this question number. So I'm going to copy this variable and I'm going to remove this from here. Now instead of directly putting question over here, I'm going to use something called combined text. Now in this combined text, I can add things which are static and I can add things which are dynamic. So I'm pasting the variable of question number that we had already linked over there. So it is question number and then this question number way. So I'm confirming this. Now let's look over here. So you see now it is question number 1, right? If I go over here, the static parts remains the same, question number, and then it goes to question number 2, question number 3, right? So we are done with this part of connecting data. Okay, any questions till now? Yeah. Yes, it can be done. So if you see in the list view, when I did that query, I did not put a limit or anything, right? So it is just going to take whatever number of options you have in that list view. Yeah, so that's what I'm coming to. I've not covered that part yet, so I'll cover. So that is, now we are getting into logic and actions, which is, I would say, the complicated part of this. So till now it was more just mechanical. You have to build, you have to connect data, etc. But now we will go to the logic part of it and see how the scoring, etc. happens. So before that, I'm just taking a pause if there are any questions till this point. Musab, Sabiha, anything? Yeah. Okay. Right. ठीक है. So so I'll now move to the logic part of it. Okay. Now for the logic part, there are certain things that I need to explain before we move on to building logic. Then there are two main things that we will see over here. One is what is called as state variables. Now, so for example, quiz score, right? Now quiz score is something which is changing. It is not static, right? Or it is not coming, like for example, question answers are although they are coming from database, they are not changing. So we have just connected it and we are letting it be there. So if you want to show any content, you can show that. But quiz score is based on the interaction of the user, right? So that is what we define, which is called as a local page state variable. And for getting that quiz score, I need to figure out whether the answer is correct or not when the user clicks on it, right? So I've defined a boolean, which is boolean can have true values of true and false, and defined it that as is correct. I've defined something as selected answer, which means that the answer that the user has selected, right? And third is quiz over. This is used so when a person goes to the third question and clicks on it, you want a different experience there. So that boolean again I have defined as quiz over to figure out whether the quiz is over or not, right? This is optional, and maybe I'm not sure if I'll cover the quiz over part in over here as well. The other thing is sort of a code expression. So like the progress bar, it will show percentages, right? So for example, quiz score, it is not showing quiz score directly. It is showing it as a percentage, how much you got out of the total. So which means that there needs to be a calculation, and because we have kept it dynamic, I cannot give it a fixed calculation. So how do we link that part? So that is something that we will look at right now. So we are going to create these page state variables and see how each one of them is managed to do this together. The other part of logic, just in terms of theory, is building the action logic. So once we click on the button, there is an action editor where we will be managing these page states, etc., to build certain logic. So that is what I'm going to cover in the next 15-20 minutes, and that's the last part of this, before which our quiz app will be ready. Okay. All right. So we have now connected data points, etc. Now we are going to build the logic, right? So first of all, the main scaffold, the topmost thing that you see, quiz page, is where you define the page state variables. Now, just for understanding, there are multiple types of variables. There is an app state variable also. Meaning of a page state is that it is available only for that page. So we define page state variables over here on the right hand side corner. If you see this box kind of thing where we can define local page state variables. So if you foresee that these variables will be used only on this page, then we need to define only in this page. If we want something in the overall app, then there is another place to define that as an app state variable, and we are going to use it use the page state variables for today. So I'm going to define, there's a quiz score that we want. Quiz score is an integer, right? Initial, I don't want this nullable. I'm defining initial value as 0. Okay. Then I will add the other one is correct. is correct is a boolean, which means that it will be true or false. I am defining that as nullable because initially when somebody does not click it, the variable does not exist. I am also defining a variable called selected answer, which is the answer that a user will select. So I am putting this as a string. This I will just put an initial value of it as any, right? So these are my three variables that I have created. I have not created quiz over right now because it will be used for in the very end. So I'll create it at that point of time just for clarity sake. Okay. Now, now how do we manage these different options and all, right? So first of all, this progress bar, the content that we wanted to show over here. So assuming that quiz score is done correctly, there is an option over here which it is showing as progress value, right? So in this progress value, I want to show the quiz score divided by the number of questions that are there, right? So I'm going to add what I called as code expression. So for anything mathematical, this is a simple way to add it. And so we add this as an argument over here. So first is the quiz score itself, which the page state variables that we defined are available over here. So because it is an integer, I can see this quiz score, right? Another argument that I'm adding is the number of documents, which again will be an integer. So number of questions. Now how to get this? So what I'll do is I'll use this quiz collections documents, and there's an option over here which says number of items. That will be my total or max score. So I'm just going to use this as the total thing. So now I have my quiz score, I have num questions. I'm going to write a simple mathematical thing over here, which is quiz score divided by number of questions. Check errors. So now you see this is the actual code. All that code Flutterflow is writing in the backend. It has made it simple for us to write just as mathematical formula, define these arguments and write it as mathematical formula and get away with it, right? I'm going to define a initial value as 0 and confirm. So now this progress bar value is defined by this. The other option it gives is what should be the text over it. This is still showing as 50%, right? So I'm going to come over here. This I just want to show it as points. So I'm going to combine text. This I will show as quiz score, which was the page state, and space points. So it is showing this dynamic value and points using combined text over here. I'll just reduce the size of this text a little bit. Right. So now my data, everything dynamically is connected. But what we have not done till now is how to manage these variables. So that happens when a user interaction will happen. The first user interaction is that they will select an option, right? So now I'm going to this button, which is an answer option. So when a user clicks on this, I want to update the selected answer. So if you see in actions, there is an option called update. The selected answer will be updated. But then we need to check whether this answer is correct or not, right? So for that, I'm going to do all the checking when somebody clicks on to add only one action in the action flow editor. Now the first thing is that our intuition is that, okay, first I need to check whether the answer is correct or not. But before that, as a code, we also need to check whether the user has selected anything or not, because there can be users who did not select any option and will directly click on submit, right? So I'm going to start with a conditional action to check whether uh, the option is selected or not. So this is a single condition. So the first value of this I am going to put as selected answer, and it is giving me these four options: equal to, not equal to, is set, and not empty. So I'm going to use this is set and not empty, and it is giving me true false. No, so now what is it doing? So basically, if somebody clicks on the button, right, and 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 then clicks on submit, then it will be set, right? Because then selected answer is set and it will go to this particular flow. If it is non-empty, but then it will move to this flow if the selected answer is not set. Now for that, I just recall there's some mistake I've done in this setting. I made this non-nullable and NA, which means that it will be set from by default. So I'm going to make this nullable and remove this, right, so that this condition works properly. So this condition is selected answer is set or not empty, right? Over here, then I'm now what do I have to do? I need to check whether the answer is correct or not correct. So again, I'm going to add a conditional, right? Or before that, I will just update. There is a boolean that we defined, which is called is correct, right? So I'm going to update page state is correct. Now this value, so when will is correct happen? When the selected answer, which we have already as a user clicks on the button, is already selected, is equal to correct answer, right? So I'm trying to build that condition over here. So in this condition, again I'll go to single condition. I go to the page state, click selected answer, and then within this question docs item, I select correct answer. So if selected answer is equal to the correct answer, which means it is correct. So if it is true, then it will update it to true. If it is false, it will update it to false, right? Now after this page state, I am going to add a conditional, and in this conditional I am simply going to use is correct, which I created just now. So if it is if the option is correct, right, then what do we want it to happen? First is we want to change the score, right? So again, we are going to update page state. We are going to use quiz score. I'm going to so here you see this option of increment decrement. If you write -1, it will decrement it as well. So I'm going to increment it by 1 if my answer is correct, right? That's what we want, right? So for the quiz score to change. There's something else that I want to do is also give to a user a feedback whether whether they did right or wrong. So I'm going to use some sound options. So I'm going to add a play sound, and I'm going to upload an asset which plays sound when it is correct. And if it is incorrect, right? So okay, so now what all we have done, we checked whether the answer was selected or not. If it was selected, we have defined a logic, but if it is not selected, we have not defined anything. So I'm going to add over here something which is called a snack bar. So snack bar is a small message that you can show, right? And over here I'm going to just write please select an answer, right? If somebody, a user, is clicking on it without selecting an answer, if it is selected, then I'm checking whether the answer is correct or not, and I'm updating that value is correct. If it is correct, then I'm incrementing the quiz score, and I'm playing the sound of this particular app. The other thing that we want to do is that after all this is done, we want to move to the next page, right? So we are going to have control the page view. So there is some error over here. Okay. So before we add the actions to page view, let's see till over here what all has happened, right? Now on this button, there is something. Before I run it again, I'm going to add one more thing, because when a user is selecting, I want to give some indication to the user that that particular answer is selected. Or let me run it and add it again, otherwise it will be too much of an overload. Yeah, while the app is loading, any questions till here? I know the logic part can get a bit overwhelming, but once you get used to the widgets, etc., do a bit hands-on, it is pretty simple. Just like building, I would say, a Google spreadsheet, how you build formula, etc. It is very similar to that. Just think about that logic and keep on applying it one by one. So you see the progress bar, it's showing me 0 points right now. And question number 1, how many planets are there in the solar system? So I click on 9. Now note that I have clicked on 9, but the user, and this was what I was alluding to, I'll change that. User does not know that this answer is selected, but it is selected in the backend. And if I click submit, you could hear the sound, it plays a correct sound as well. Now I can swipe to the next one, which is the biggest planet. If I do something incorrect and click on submit, it just played that wrong option, right? Now for a user, it is not intuitive which answer they are selecting, so we need to change that part, right? So we will do that very quickly. So for that, what we are going to do is that when an answer is selected, I am going to change the border of this, the button that you are seeing, right? So over here, if you go to the properties part, you see for this button, border color right now it is transparent. Now if I put something static, it will not change based on user interaction, so I cannot use that. So I'm going to use this over here. I'm going to put a conditional value, right? First conditional value is whether selected answer has been, once you click on the button, and which means that selected answer is set or not, right? So I'm going to put the same what we had put in the initial logic of while building the action tree on that button. Selected answer is set and not empty, right? Now if it is set and not empty, then again, because remember this, whatever we are writing over here will apply for all the buttons. So if I directly put a color over here, it will apply that color for all the buttons as soon as you click on the button. So I need to then check that it should only apply the color for the button which is the selected answer. Right, so again I'm going to put a conditional action, a conditional value over here, which is if selected answer is equal to the item that we are looking at, which is the answer options item. Then I'm going to give a color over here. So let's say I give it some accented color over here, and else I'm just leaving it blank. I don't want to give any other border color. Okay, so now let's see how it changed. So question is, how many planets are there in the, so I click on 9. So very faint border color, if you see, it's coming. So let's just make it more prominent so that it's easier to understand. Let's just change the border width to 3. Okay, I did not shift the window, but basically what I did was I changed the border width of this thing to 3, so that if there is a color, then it looks a bit bigger. So you see, now you can see the border width, right? So because I selected 9, now it is making, it is going automatically to the next page, etc. Right? So if I select Mars, again, it is going incorrect, right? So now we have almost built the functionality of the app, etc. Now one additional functionality I'll add is that once an answer is submitted, I want it to go directly to the next one. And right now, if you see the swipe, I can also go to question number 1 by just swiping these things, right? So I want to remove this and make it more automatic, that once somebody selects the answer and clicks on submit, they automatically go to the next page, and it is not dependent on this swipe functionality, right? So that's the last part I think we will cover today. So I'm going to this button. So remember, the pages of these different where these questions are hosted are part of a page view, right? And before moving them to the next page, I'm going to add a bit of delay, because I don't want them the change to happen instantaneously. Let them appreciate what they got in terms of points, etc. So I'm adding a 2-second delay over here. And then I'm going to add an action which is called control page view. So in this page view, you can name the page view also, but there is only one page view which we are using right now, so it's easy to identify. And in this action, I can define previous, next, first, jump to, etc. I'm going to define it as next, right? So once the answer is correct or answer is incorrect, it will wait for 2 seconds and it will move me to the next question automatically. Again, I want to remove these indicators. So within this page view, there are properties which can be removed. So over here, I can go to these indicator properties. I can just switch it off, It will still scroll when we are swiping, so it says allow swipe scrolling. I'm going to switch that off as well, right? And now just let's look at the app that we have. So I'm doing something incorrect. I select 5. So you see, automatically it changed without me taking any action after 2-second wait. You can increase the wait also if you want to have like 3-4 seconds before it move to the next question, etc. I select Jupyter. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see, but there is one error that is happening. If you see in question number 2, I selected Jupyter. And in question number 3, I have not clicked on anything, but it is still showing me Jupyter selected. It is because the the page state is still having Jupyter as the value, right? So how to correct this? Now again, it's a simple correction. So once we are submitting it, I want to reset the selected answer. I don't want that to stay over there, right? So once I'm adding this wait or delay, I will add an action of update page state, selected answer, reset value. And also this is a very faint color. I'm just going to use a color which is visible properly. Yeah, this should be good. Right, so you can see this now. Now I selected Jupyter. Now you see Jupyter is not selected anymore because we have reset that option, and so each one of these is performing independently, right? Okay. So in the app that I showed, after this submit, there was another window where it was saying thank you for finishing the app. In just interest of time, I'm not going there, but I think you have got enough gist of how these things are built, right? And what kind of logic, etc., can be built over here, right? So Sunit has dropped off. He had to move on. Any questions till now? And it's basically the end. Now I will be very happy if you actually build this completely, and you can write to me if there are any questions. We can connect again and help you resolve those questions, right? And it will be something new that you would have learned and started building on your own.